Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Do I have a mic? If you'd like to stand, we'll sing our call to worship.
It's the same one.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unity at Traverse City. My name is Blake Ringsmith, and I am very, very pleased to be your worship assistant on this snowy, beautiful morning, right? Beautiful, snowy morning, absolutely. And as we do with every service, we begin with prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes. Father, Mother God, thank you for this gathering. Thank you for this music. Thank you for our wonderful guest speaker this morning. We are all here by divine appointment. There is much to be learned, absorbed, and more importantly, taken out into our community and into our world. And for this opportunity to do, to be, to love. We are all very grateful. And together we say, Amen. And now I invite you, our affirmation is on the bulletin, if we could say it together. I thank God for directing light. I am inspired and I follow the right path.
If you'd like to stand, we will sing our next song.
Fighting hearts uniting, all one people, all one dream. Hate is dying, love is rising, on a world awakening. Children of one God, one planet, let the earth and heaven sing. weaves us a common theme. Peace our anthem, all welcome to a world awakening. Oh, to a world awakening. Oh, to a world awakening. New ideas and new beginnings, all that each tomorrow brings, freely giving, we are living in a world awakening. Oh, in a world awakening. Oh, to a world awakening. Oh, in a world awakening. Hate is dying, love is rising on a world awakening.
I have a few announcements I would like to share. Is my mic on? Can you hear me okay? Does or doesn't? Now it is. There we go. I do have a few announcements that I would like to share. Our list of November speakers, the 13th, today is, of course, Shoka. On the 20th is Kit Holmes, and on the 27th is Judy Grimes. If there's anyone interested in learning more about Unity and Unity of Traverse City and joining the path to becoming a member of our congregation, the classes will be held this month. The first class will be today, and the topic will be about Unity Basics. The second class will be November 20th, and the topic will be about UTC and U. And the last class will be November 27th, with the topic being about general membership. The classes will begin at noon following the service and will last approximately 90 minutes. There is a schedule and a sign-up sheet in the lobby for those who would like to participate. New members will be officially welcomed into the congregation on Sunday, December 4th, and will be able to vote in the next annual membership meeting, which is in November. We have some board opening and nomination process. Just a reminder that applications for becoming a member of the next board of trustees are now being accepted. For anyone who is interested, there is an information packet available on the table in the lobby, and application packets are also available on the website. The deadline for applications is Sunday, December 11th. We would like to encourage you to like UTC on Facebook and share our posts with your friends and family. So that we can increase our visibility in the community. And it's, what's that?
It's free.
Oh, it's free? Sweet. All right, great. Wow. And then Nancy Newman is looking for some assistance after the service next Sunday to help decorate the sanctuary for the upcoming Christmas holiday. So anybody who can stick around after church next Sunday, she always makes the place look so beautiful. And we're thankful for that. Thank you, Nancy. Okay.
You can remain seated for the next song. There's a heart that will never turn away. Oops, wrong song. Flipped the wrong page. Oh, well.
Thought I was losing it.
Good morning. I'm quiet,
I'm calm, I'm at ease.
And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. One of the great opportunities we have being Unity and being in the position we are is we hear from all sorts of wonderful, stimulating, different and wonderful ways of thought. And today our guest speaker is an ordained Buddhist minister who recently located to Elk Rapids area. He's here with his partner Jill and their baby Elia, who's back there behind the window. We welcome them both, or all three of them. And without any further ado, I introduce Shoka.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Shoka, and as our Blake has mentioned, I'm a fully ordained monk, and I've recently relocated here to Elk Rapids in the Traverse City area. And I've been invited here by Libby to give you guys a talk. And this might show up a little bit differently today in that I'm basically going to be introducing a meditation technique called Shikantaza. And then after that, I'm going to open it up to questions. So I'm not going to present something to you so much, but I'm very interested in hearing what you guys want to know and endeavoring to respond as best as I can out of my understanding. So everybody is probably familiar with the term meditation, and there are a lot of different ways of meditating. So this one in particular, as I said, is called Shikantaza, and it translates out of the Japanese as just precisely this, or just this. And it's a very simple meditation technique, but it is profoundly difficult. So the monastery where I come out of, we practice for about 6.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then we have abbreviated practices on the weekend. So this is something that for people who feel motivated to do, it's quite a practice. It takes a very long time. So you guys are welcome to join me if you'd like, or you're welcome to just sit and listen or pay attention. And again, I invite anybody to ask questions. So the body, typically you see somebody meditating in a cross-legged posture, and everybody's body in this kind of culture is going to be very different. We all have a different relationship to pain, to just the way that we are structured. So you want to sit in a way that is comfortable for you, that can be in a chair, that can be on a cushion, and obviously for today's presentation, we'll probably be sitting in chairs. But if you do want to practice at home, it's very important to relate to your body as it's arising for you. So you don't want to try and force yourself into anything in particular. We want to really just pay respect to what's arising. So we want to hold the body still without being rigid. So you don't want to force your body into a particular state, but you kind of want to have some symmetry to how you're sitting. And it's almost as if a string were pulling your head up towards the ceiling slightly, and you were relaxing down into that. And you can look directly ahead in front of you. If you have a floor in front of you, you can gaze at the floor. If there's somebody sitting in front of you, you might be looking at their back or the back of the chair. And the eyes for this particular practice are open. And if you're holding the body still and the eyes are open, the only intention is to observe what arises. So we're not necessarily focusing on the breath or looking at a particular mantra, but we're receiving what's arising. And if we do happen to go to the breath, if we do happen to hear thoughts come and go in our mind, that's okay. That's a part of the practice. So anything that comes, we receive. And we'll do this for a few minutes. Whatever arises in the sense fields, whatever arises in the mind, for you personally, is completely appropriate. Don't accept, don't reject, and don't look away. Just receive. And what we're doing here is observing a form. So even though the intention is to hold still, you may want to notice the way that you relate to that. You may not be able to do that, or perhaps you are doing that. There's nothing to correct, nothing to adjust. And if you find that you do need to move, if you need to move your leg or your arm, or you need to cough or just kind of adjust because you have some pain, then to do that. And return to the intention to hold still and receive. So if anybody has any questions, please raise your hand, and perhaps if you could say your name when I call on you, and you can go ahead and ask your question. You in the back?
Nancy Newman.
Nancy.
I'm just curious what brought you to Buddhism and how you decided to become a Buddhist monk.
So suffering is what brought me to the path, and I didn't necessarily look to become a Buddhist. Instead, what I looked for was a monastic path, and I think when I was 16 years old, I first picked up a book by Thomas Merton, and it was his autobiography, and I read it, and I was very motivated to live a spiritual life. And I spent many years looking around for a tradition that resonated with me. And it wasn't until I met my teacher, who's the abbot of the monastery that I belong to, that I ended up becoming a monk. So I did a lot of traveling and a lot of visiting to different communities and different practices, and it wasn't until I found my teacher that I decided to do it. It was choiceless, I guess you could say. It wasn't much of a decision. Yes?
I'm Yvette.
Yvette?
What about this tradition had you settle upon it instead of the many others you investigated?
I think it was my teacher. So the presence of my teacher, meeting him, it was very immediate. It was very direct and very powerful. And I've met a lot of teachers. I've learned from a lot of people, but that connection, it was undescribable. And if it weren't for him, I probably would not be a monk that I know of, because I'd probably still be looking around. Yes?
So, my name's Molly.
Molly?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not speaking loud enough, please tell me to speak louder.
So what, I mean, it's probably hard to say, but what do you think is the primary teaching of Buddhism?
What do I think is the primary teaching of Buddhism? I would say that the primary teaching is to see the truth for oneself. Very simply. But if anybody has that intention, it is not so simple to do. Libby.
Yes. So I met Shoka on Zoom, and when I felt very connected to you because in my memory is right on this, that you said that you thought about being a monk at age 8. Is that right? You said around that time?
I think from a very young age. I didn't realize that a monastic path was an option until I was a teenager. But had I known, yes, I would have.
So I felt connected to you right away because at 8, I think I had my first meditation. But my question is, have there ever been wars fought over Buddhism?
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I'm not a historian and I'm not a scholar. So the question is, have there been any wars
Like Christians fight all the time.
in the way in which Christians fight? And I would say yes. A lot of times the Buddhist tradition is viewed as peaceful, as mindful, as everything that we look for in a life that is sane, but we're human beings and we're confused. So there have been a lot of wars, very similar in the Christian tradition and other religious traditions. And I'm not a historian, I'm not a scholar, so I couldn't really tell you specific things. Although I do know that in Tibet, there was, I believe, a tradition called well, I can't remember the tradition, but they promoted a particular teaching or an approach, and that was against the doctrinal school, the political school, which I think was the school that His Holiness the Dalai Lama was a part of. And they actually went into and burned down the monasteries and forced them to change into their tradition. So it happens everywhere, yes. Yes.
Linda.
Linda.
You say the essence for you is finding your own truth. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you have found for your own truth at this point in your spiritual journey?
I think what I have found is how confused I am. And the endeavor is to see the truth. And I think at this point I'd make the distinction. It's to see the truth for myself, but it's not my truth. There's a very strong emphasis in the Buddhist tradition on a teacher, somebody who has seen the truth and somebody who can point that out in one's own mind. And I've been a student of my teacher for about 10 or 11 years now. And what I find is that I will do anything to hide out. I will do anything to perpetuate my confusion. So a teacher is necessary because when I don't want to, I want to see the truth, probably as many people do, but looking directly at, in that direction can be painful. And the tendency is to want to turn away from it. So my teacher will point me back in that direction, and it can be very painful. Yes?
So what do you see as true nature, your true nature?
I don't see what that is. I would say that there's an example in the Buddha as sanity. Somebody who has seen the truth, somebody who has the ability to point that out in other people, and through the continuity of a tradition that other people have seen that too. I have not seen my own true nature, but you could say perhaps there's a bit of faith there, and that I believe that my teacher has seen the truth, and that he is encouraging me to do that myself. Yes?
My name's Paul. Are there elements of sanity from the Buddha's perspective? Like what are some examples of sane thinking or behaving Buddhistically?
I would say this. And those images are very powerful. Looking at a Buddha that is in meditation and perhaps like a statue, you see them in temples and throughout the world. Just this. That is an example of sanity. It's something that we can return to. It's not necessary to maintain something, but it as practitioners, speaking for myself, can't really speak for anybody else, but the attitude is to continue to return to that example, and perhaps someday we'll see that for ourselves, or we might not, but to do it anyways. In the back? Carol?
Why did you come here?
I was invited.
No, I mean, why did you come to Northern Michigan?
Oh. He's about this high. Right behind you. Yeah, we had our son about 2 months ago, and I relocated 3 months ago. And previous to that, I'd spent 8 years in the monastery and had no intention of leaving. Yes.
Hi, my name is George, and
George.
I was just wondering, do you have students? Do you teach in Northern Michigan?
I do not have students, so I'm what's considered a novice monk or a monk in training. And in this tradition, the only way you can function as a teacher, a Dharma teacher, is if you're given that. Basically, if my teacher tells me to teach, then I will. Otherwise, I can get up, in front of groups of people. I can present meditation. I can respond to questions. But we do have a group up here. We do have. There's a group that meets at the Unitarian Universalist Church. We just started going back there after a long hiatus, as everybody's familiar with. And we meet there regularly, and we also have groups elsewhere. But the main community is down in Battle Creek. Did I address what you want to know, or okay? And how are we doing on time?
We're good.
Okay, good to keep going or
Yes,
good to?
we are.
Okay. Yes.
I'm Joe.
Jill?
Joe.
Joe.
So I have also done a lot of spiritual exploration, many different paths, and I'm curious about Buddhism and service. Well, first of all, the purpose of long sittings. I've often thought, and this is, maybe it's going to come off judgmental, I don't mean it to be, but there's so much work to be done and good in the name, just light work for others, service. That what is the purpose of sitting? It seems so self-serving, unless there's something externally that, that sitting is creating some kind of a higher vibrational pattern for trying to make light, more light in the world. So I guess, I don't know what my question is, but on a deep level, if you meditate for 6 hours, is it meditating just for yourself or just for your own understanding, or is there an external higher good that you see as part of the practice?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that is a direct question, and it's a good. So you should not be intimidated or feel afraid to ask that. The monastery, functions in a particular way. So I can't even remember your name, Karen. Karen has been down there to the monastery as well. We sit for 6.5 hours a day, but we also do a lot of other things. We have what's called a work period, where we do work within our community. We have study sessions where we study together with community. And slowly over the years, I've been a part of the community for about 10 years. And we've gone from having 3 people as practice residents, myself and 2 other people, to having about a dozen fully ordained monks and an international community. And we're slowly kind of moving out into the community to do more, what you could say, public services. So we're right in the heart of Battle Creek, and it is the intention of my teacher to introduce meditation and training one's mind. But not everybody would sit 6.5 hours a day or even want to have monastic practice. So the intention is to meet everything where it's at. So provide programs for people that might be beneficial to them. We don't want people to be Buddhists, we want people to be sane. And the only way that we can really begin to do that is to start here. If we are not clear about what is coming and going in our own mind streams, we can't fundamentally help somebody else. And we have to, and I'm just speaking for myself and for my practice, but if there's any unexamined negativity, that's going to get projected out onto other people. And so that to be able to see that, then we can perhaps help other people. Yes?
I wonder if you could talk about the Four Noble Truths and how meditation works with that.
The Four Noble Truths is one of the primary teachings in Buddhism, and you'll see how well we need to memorize things because I might not even be able to repeat them. So the first noble truth is suffering exists. Suffering or dis-ease, pain. And the second noble truth would be that there is a cause to that, there's an origin. And the third is that we can be free of that. And the fourth is basically the Buddhist path or the spiritual path that helps one to transcend suffering. So suffering exists, there's a cause, there's the possibility of cessation, and there's the path that leads to cessation. Do you have anything further?
Is the cause, it's desire? Is that the original cause of suffering?
Yeah, it's going to be talked about in different traditions, but with the way that my teacher talks about it is that desire or wanting things to be different than they are is the cause of suffering. And that can be a very painful thing to continue to look at, as I'm sure many of you know. And something that is also talked about is suffering is not something that is part-time. It's something that, the Buddha didn't say suffering's part-time. He said life is suffering. And it's not a nihilistic view or pessimistic view. It just seems to be the case. And we can do something about that. We can train our minds to see what's true.
So can you please tell us the purpose of the meditation when you said some things might come up, don't turn away. What do you do with that? I mean, what's the next step in your teaching of something painful comes up or an uncomfortable truth, if you will, about yourself comes up? What's the next step, either in the meditation process or after you're done meditating?
Yeah, good question. To just receive it.
And then examine it, or?
To continue to receive it. If something arises in the mind and we don't push on it, we don't pull on it, we don't ignore it, then there's the possibility of actually seeing what it is directly. And it can be about anything. So anything, we can use an emotion, for example. Anger, jealousy, frustration. When that arises, our tendency is to want to do something with it. We don't want to feel angry, we don't want to feel depression, we don't want to feel negativity, so we try and turn away from it. But we don't actually stop to investigate what it is in the first place. And the practice of meditation helps us to be able to look at that without further conceptualizing it. So without saying, this is depression, this is what this is, and that might be helpful. It certainly is helpful for a lot of people. But through this path, through this training, we're endeavoring to you could say, see right down to the root of it, the texture of it. How does it feel? What is it? And the question what helps us to go right into what something is. And oftentimes if something arises, we might say, well, why do I feel this way? And we will turn away and look for something else. But if we say, what is this? Oftentimes we're not left with much. It's a lonely path. Yes?
Ms. Bob, is suffering ever overcome? Or is it something that goes on for eternity? It just presents other opportunities to learn whatever it is that you need to learn?
So the teachings, the provisional teachings, are presented in the sense of there's suffering exists, and there's the possibility of cessation. And I think that is very helpful. That's what brought me to the path, is not wanting to suffer anymore. But the way that my teacher talks about it, and I don't understand this, so I'm endeavoring to see it. But he says that the suffering doesn't go anywhere, but it's the identity that of the person who is suffering is what is seen through. So, I lost it. Do you have any more before I go on? No? Libby?
I'd like to go back to what Blake was saying. So if you are watching it and observing it and feeling the texture and the sensation, is that perhaps a way to, it seems like when you do that in meditation that things sort of sometimes dissolve and it helps you to keep from catastrophizing about it. I'm just asking if that's a piece that you look at.
Did you say catastrophizing?
Yes.
Can you say what you mean by that?
So when you start, you're seeing something that comes up that's causing your suffering, and then you keep watching it, and for some minds you start embellishing it in your mind, and it starts growing and growing, and then you're going into more fear, as opposed to if you watch it and come to that space of acceptance. And I feel it sort of dissipates a little bit, and you let go of the potential of catastrophizing or bringing in more suffering. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that's what I felt that a lot from Buddhist principles, myself personally.
So to respond to, and I welcome more questions about it if you have it, but I would say that the catastrophizing that you're describing is awareness.
Yes.
So that's the primary goal. And
It's coming back to awareness.
yeah, you're actually seeing the way in which something's arising and you're elaborating on it. You're actually creating, the stories are kind of like, well, the thing that's arising is like Velcro and then everything just sticks to it.
Yeah.
That's awareness. So to come back to the instruction of meditation, it's not about accepting that, it's not about rejecting that, and it's not about looking away from that. And there's no reference point, in other words. And that things may dissolve, things may get worse. It doesn't indicate something else. Yes.
Hi, man. Are you saying it's more like you're not accepting it, you're not rejecting it, it's almost like you're allowing it, and then it stops the suffering, the struggle? Is that what you're saying?
To not do anything with it. And that's an instruction. That's something that we're given to observe, and what we observe is the way in which we can't do that. We can't actually observe, we can't actually receive what's arising, but instead we want to change it. So, to respond most directly, you don't do anything with it.
Okay.
Well, if the source of all pain, misery, suffering is want or change, to change a circumstance, when you take the meditation concept and you, relating to what Nan was just saying, if you see it and you accept it as being, and not without the desire to change it, isn't that the melding of those two ideas of acceptance, so that you're not fighting, you're not wanting change, you're not desiring a different circumstance, you're just, this is what is, and I don't have any energy about wanting to change it, it's just the way it is, and it's in divine order, we might say.
So what's the question?
Is that the combination of the meditation with the ultimate goal of the Buddhist teaching is to get at letting go of desire, of want, and accepting what we've labeled as pain or poverty or hunger or whatever, and it is what it is. I mean, to use that trite phrase, it is what it is, and I'm not trying to change it. So I'm asking if that's a tool, the two come together, in your opinion.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
How are we on time?
we have time for probably one more question or two of those.
Okay, and then also if anybody wants to ask questions after the service, you're more than welcome to. Not just me, but also Sokoran. She's also a fully ordained monk, and she's going to go hide now. Yes, you and the...
Monique,
Monique?
what is the Buddhist belief about what happens when your material body dies? And I'm asking because I just keep hearing about suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm thinking, oh gosh, are you gonna say recycling more suffering? Like, what's the point of all that? But what's the belief anyway?
So you're asking about what happens after death?
Yeah, and I don't want you to say suffering.
That sounds like one.
Give me what I want.
I think that's a very good question, and the exploration is very, very stimulating. I don't have an answer for you. I think what is important is the curiosity. Yeah, I can't respond about what that would look like. I have ideas, as anybody might, but I don't see that. Yes.
Hi, my name's Michael. This might be a silly question, but every group of people, whether it's a religious group, a cultural group, or whatever, have traditions. I think like the Amish have their traditions, and it seems to me that having grown up in pretty much a white suburban community, I didn't see a lot of variety, but now we're living in kind of hairy times, and by that I mean the hair growth on men compared to women, the tattoos, the body piercing. This is all new from what I grew up in, and it may be new for a number of people, but is this a form of just artistic presentation? Because we see, at least I do in the black community, with the variety in their hair. If you watch a basketball game, which is 80% black, the hairstyles are so amazingly creative. But does Buddhism have a history of there must be a shaved head and face, and is it only for men?
Yeah, great question. Do you have more, or would you like me to respond?
Well, I'm just saying that, it seems that when we think of Buddhism, at least I do, and it's always the statues of Buddha, it's the clean shaved head and face, and you can see the Buddhist community of men like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's the only tradition, but how far does that go back, and does it apply to women or just men?
I can respond to that out of how that's arising in our tradition. I would love it if I could grow a beard. I cannot tell you how many times I've been called a Nazi or a member of the KKK, and that can be very difficult. And I've asked my teacher, if I could ever grow a beard, and he told me I'm not that important. And it's more about a form than it is about adhering to something, to some kind of principle. A shaved head means renunciation. I think that happened at some point in time in Buddhist history, and probably still happens today. But for me personally, shaving is more of a relationship to my teacher. He asks me to do it and I observe it. It's going to be different in our tradition with men and women. Women have the option of whether or not they can shave their heads. Soka-ren has a full head of hair and she can keep that as long as she wants. And we also don't differentiate between monks and nuns, which happens within a lot of traditions. So traditionally in Buddhism, you would have what's called the Vinaya, or the monastic code, and oftentimes women, if they were nuns, they would have to observe more rules, a lot more rules. And in our tradition, we each observe 16 precepts, and we're each monks, and men have to shave their heads.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everybody.
And he will be available after the service to answer more questions if there are some. Is that right, Shoka?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Just come up and introduce yourself and don't be shy. I will.
Change the order of the service just a little bit today.
Thank you so much, Shoka.
Come, Spirit, come.
Come, Spirit, come. Our hearts control. Our spirits long to be made whole. Oh, come, Spirit, come, let inward love, let love guide every deed. By this we worship, we are free.
Now is the time we enter into our offering, a time to share our financial gifts with the ministry. As children of a loving God, we live in the light of abundance, deeply grateful for all that has been given and all that is to come. We embrace the good that God provides with joy and thanksgiving. Let's say our prosperity blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, thank you. And so it is.
So do you think that when the day is done and the victory's been won, that it's over? And do you think when the mountain has been climbed, you can stand there passing time till it's over? Raise it up, raise the bar higher, raise it up, get up on your feet, raise it up higher, raise it up so we can reach. Celebrate, your best work lies before you, and your loved ones all adore you. Time to rest. Don't hesitate to start down a new road. You will reap what you dare sow on this quest. Raise it up, raise the bar higher, raise it up, get up on your feet, raise it up higher, raise it up so we can reach. Reach past your dreams, reach past the sky, reach past your fears. It's time to rise, raise it up, raise the bar higher, raise it up, get up on your feet, raise it up higher, raise it up so we can reach
A little higher,
so we can reach,
a little higher,
so we can reach,
a little higher,
so we can reach a little higher, a little higher. Raise it up, raise the bar higher, raise it up, get up on your feet, raise it up higher, raise it up so we can reach,
a little higher,
so we can reach,
a little higher,
so we can reach,
a little higher,
so we can reach a little higher, a little higher.
And that's the service for today. I'd like to thank you all for coming. For anybody here for the first time, we have a welcome packet that is available from our ushers as you leave. We also have a personal and confidential prayer service by our chaplain team. They'll be up here and possibly in the hallway too, but you'll know them by their orange tags. We have refreshments and fellowship at the other end of the sanctuary. And as we always do, we'll close with a prayer. Father, Mother God, thank you for wonderful service, new ways of thinking, open hearts, fabulous music. Let this spiritual nourishment fulfill us so that we may take it out beyond the confines of this church. We spread it to those we meet and spread the energy of love and tolerance, acceptance, beyond our community. For this opportunity to come together in prayer and in love, we are so thankful. Together, amen. All right, and now, as we always do, let's form a circle around the sanctuary. And so I invite you to speak aloud or to yourself, if you're more comfortable, a name of a person or a circumstance that you're calling for prayer. These names, these circumstances, calling for love and divine inspiration and direction, knowing this or something better. And we bless and consecrate these prayers with our prayer for protection, which is on the screen. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.